Efforts are underway to save an historic submarine in Oklahoma. Yeah, a submarine. And what's more, the problem for the sub is water. ONR's Ed Murray explains.
Mother Nature is trying to do what the Japanese Navy in World War II could not, put the USS Batfish out of action.
We're in a race against time. We always thought we were lucky because we're on dry land and our maintenance bill has always been very low compared to the ones that are in water. But then when you have a drastic flood that moves it and then causes it to start deteriorating, no, we're not prepared for that.
The Batfish spent more than 40 years on dry ground overlooking the Arkansas River in the port of Muskogee. But on May 23rd, the river flowed right through War Memorial Park. Only a tree stopped the sub from potentially floating downriver. Brent Trout is the park's executive director.
It broke loose, heard it was a god-awful noise, and we all knew what it was. I'm freaking out on the inside. I'm just thinking, this is about to go down the river, Weber's Falls, if this would have hit the dam. So there's so many things running through my head is that this is a piece of history, this is safety, that's an issue.
It would be 3 weeks before Trout could board her and inspect the damage.
We had no power to it at that point. The environment became about 90% humid and started peeling up floor tiles, World War II floor tiles that we have to replace. It also started destroying the interior, and luckily we've been able to restore most of it.
But the bigger issue is on the outside. Free of its holding area, the keel is bearing the boat's weight.
So you're distributing 1,800 long tons across something about this wide on a hill. It is rolling to the port side. We have these high tension lines that each hold about 50,000 pounds. And when we first put them on, they were tight, but now I can go plug them and play a guitar song for you. It is rolling, and when it rolls, if it does roll all the way, there's no getting it back upright.
And that, Trout says, would be a loss of historic proportions. This is the Batfish rescuing down flyers, but her claim to fame, sinking 3 enemy subs in a 76-hour period in 1945, a feat featured in an episode of the 1957 TV show The Silent Service, narrated by Rear Admiral Thomas Dykers and featuring the sub's executive officer, Lieutenant Clark Sprinkle.
2 enemy submarines in less than 48 hours. This was a record. Spirit in the Batfish was soaring, and they weren't finished yet. At 1:55 in the morning of February 13th, they made another radar contact.
Sprink, will you tell us about the last submarine you sank? The post-war record shows that it was the RO-113, and it was loaded with ammunition for their forces on Luzon. She went up with quite a roar.
3 submarines, most people never saw one, let alone saw one and sunk one. 3 in 76 hours.
She earned 9 battle stars and a presidential citation. Now her future comes down to funding from FEMA and elsewhere. This week, Muskogee officials announced early work on options that may include a layer of protection for the entire port industrial complex. Scott Robinson is the port director.
Maybe a levee could be added to protect, we're talking about utilizing maybe $5 million to help alleviate the consequences of a future event.
There is an immediate need, though, dirt, and lots of it. The ground below the bow is eroding away.
I jokingly said earlier to someone that we're doing a community dirt fundraiser, and they're like, what, like a red dirt relief? I'm like, no, we're actually looking for dirt. If you can bring it out and put it in this hole, that would be even better.
The War Memorial must also raise $150,000, its share of the restoration effort that includes stabilizing the boat.
I can easily put it right back in that hole, and then the next time it floods, this will happen again, and it may happen worse, and it may go down the river, and it may be destroyed. I can't live with that. Our idea is we want to put it on cradles and have cables attached to the cradles so that when it floods and it floats up, it'll come right back down to the spot it was at. Also, having it on cradles will get it off the ground. It'll allow us to restore it much easier. It will be more impressive to look at.
The Batfish is one of just 9 World War II submarines still on display, but 2 of those will likely disappear by year's end.
I just hope we can get it. I don't want to see this become like a Ling or become like a Clamagore. That's my biggest fear, because history has a way of slipping through the cracks. It's not always valued, because they go, well, what do you need a World War II submarine for in Muskogee? We need it for a lot of things. We have to remind people this isn't just about the service of sailors, it's about the service of all Americans.
Donations to save the Batfish can be made at warmemorialpark.org. There's also a GoFundMe account and a t-shirt fundraiser featuring the logo, Batfish Crazy. Ed Murray, the Oklahoma News Report.
And I know you're wondering, what is a batfish? Ed tells me a batfish is a nasty little critter that swims deep off the coast of Peru. So now you know.